Hey guys, this is Hayes with CheatSheetPros.com. Today is Friday, April 29th. I apologize, I haven't been able to put up very many videos. I have been absolutely swamped at work to start the year. We're down a couple of people on our staff, so I've been working quite a bit. However, I did dig into the cheat sheet yesterday. I spent about 15 minutes, came up with 3 plays, posted them on Twitter and the Facebook groups for a 3-team parlay that paid plus 400. And it won. So that was nice to get off work and sit down on the deck and look down and say, hey, I hit my parlay for today. That was good. So today I wanted to set some time aside. Friday mornings I have a little bit easier schedule that I can manipulate. So today in this video I'm going to combine 4 bets and 4 DFS stacks. So I'm going to hit them at the same time because the games I like to bet are also the 4 stacks that are jumping out at me. So we're going to do a little bit of a mixed video. So I'm going to go ahead and get started so this video doesn't ramble on forever. Let me make sure you can see everything on your screen. We'll get centered there. Also on our MLB cheat sheet, we have our stacks, pitchers, hitters. We have our stacker tab. We have our tiers tab if you play tiers. And new today, we have our pitcher grid. So I want to show you this real quick. So one of the things that we always do in NBA is we look back at the last 15 days and fantasy points, kind of how they're doing. Well, I do it for our hitters, and I've got over here our last 7 and last 14 days, and then when you go into our daily stacks down here, you can see kind of the last 16 days in fantasy points, how the hitters have done. Well, I've never done pitchers because pitchers are kind of tough to pull in, so kind of in the background this year, I started pulling it in and looking at it, seeing if it pulled, and then I had enough data today that I'm like, well, hey, let me just throw that grid that I keep looking at, and I've shared a couple screenshots, and throw it on the cheat sheet for everybody. So over here, we've got pretty much all your same stats you see everywhere. You got your FanDuel salary, your DraftKings salary. If a name's a little off, like DK here, they say Cortez instead of Cortez Jr., it might pull a little ... and then it's sorted by the average points from high to low, so you can see the good pitchers are kind of up top and the struggling pitchers who are not having as good of a year down low. And then we've got the weather in here. So what I love to see here is the wind blowing out against some struggling pitchers. That's good for bets, stacks, anything you want to do. For example, Bibic, however you say his name, he's one we're going to look at against the Yankees today. He's got a -8, -11, and -11.5. Sanchez only has 1 start, didn't do well. One thing I will give you a piece of caution is be careful with, I think Garrett Richards was in here. Yeah, so someone like this, you see a lot of blue. Well, he's working out of the bullpen, so if he gets 1 or 2 innings, he's going to pull fantasy points. So you can see he's obviously not starting this game, 1 day rest starting, 1 day rest starting. He's working out of the bullpen here. That's why it's showing up. But when you see like gaps of 5 days, then that's usually a start. So just something to look into. Green is going to be 20 plus points. So you can see Nelson Cortez is our top guy up here if you're playing DFS. He's got 25 and 32 points. We'll talk about him. McGill has 3 of 4 good starts, over 24 plus points, and then 1 struggle bus start. Bundy's been pretty consistent, 18 to 20, etc., etc. So I posted a screenshot of this so you can take a look at it. So look at betting against or stacking against these pitchers, and then these are the ones you want to use if you're playing DFS, and we'll also take a look at some props later on today. So let's go ahead and get started. So the daily stacks tab, I live and breathe right here. I use the stacker tab to go through and find the games I like, look at some BVP. I use this for props. It has the pitcher K9 rate, team strikeout percentage over the last 2 weeks. And then I also spend some time on this SP grid and then over here at the daily stacks tab. So I'm going to go down. This is going to be the screenshot that I post once I get the video done. The 4 games we're going to look at are Giants, Dodgers, Yankees, and Cardinals. So we're going to flip over these. So I've got that screenshot that I'll post, but I want to go over these games in detail to kind of show you some of the ones that I'm looking at. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the Giants over Washington. So I like this as a bet, the Giants, and a stack. So right now you can see on the DK Sportsbook, we've got, actually let me make sure you can see, okay, you can see that. Giants. So they're down here. So on the run line, they've got 98% of the cash, 97% of the bets on the DraftKings book. They're minus 210 with a 97.90 bets cash line. So they're getting a lot of money, obviously. So typically when I find a game I like, I want to go look, see where the money's at. You know, is this if you're betting, chalk doesn't matter because it's just money. You only got to worry about chalk when you're stacking. So let's go ahead and take a look at this first game. So here we got San Francisco over Washington. Some of the things that I like here are last 10 power rankings. If you don't like looking at stacks, we have number 3 versus number 28. That's a wide difference, so that's something to jump out, take a look at. Also, in these recent games, you can see that San Francisco's won 5 of the last 6 games, and other than this last game, they did pretty good. They put up 8, 4, 12, 5, and 7 runs, so that's great for stacking and offensive power. And then over here, Washington, they've got they've lost 8 games in a row, and they've only scored 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1 runs. And over the last 11 games, they only topped 3 runs 1 time, and that was against Arizona. So Washington is struggling, needless to say. They're 6-15 on the year. And then what I like is this little stat right here. It might be kind of hard for you to see, so I'll circle it with my mouse. But San Francisco is 6-0 versus teams under 500. So this little column here shows you what they are versus teams over 500 and under 500. So San Francisco is 6-0 versus teams under 500. Washington is 6-15. That obviously makes them an under 500 team. And then Washington is 1-9 versus teams over 500. And that would qualify for San Francisco as they are 13-6. So the next thing we want to look at is the pitching matchup. We can see the teams clearly leaning over here on San Francisco. So San Francisco is going to send Alex Wood to the mound. He's got a 2.51 ERA, 1.19 WHIP, allowing a 2.41 average. And when he comes out of the game, San Francisco holds the number 3 bullpen. If you don't want to look at these stats, just say, hey, number 3 bullpen, Alex Wood, fantastic. We love it. As far as the hitters for Washington, they fall into the low mid. You see a lot of blue up here as far as fantasy, so just think of that as they are struggling. And then over here, Aaron Sanchez, he only has 1 start this year. He got rocked, but last year, he only had 35 innings, but he had an xFIP of 5. So his ERA looks good on the outside of 3.06, but an xFIP of 5.01 is awful. So, and then when he comes out of the game, the 25th bullpen. So we have a big bullpen advantage here. We have a pitcher advantage here. And we have a team we really like that's doing really well playing at home. So that's even more fantastic. As far as stacking, I look down here for the graded hitters. So I think Austin Slater's almost a must. Any of these that are graded red, that's kind of where I start my stack. So if you're stacking San Francisco, I'd do 1 and 4. And then add in from there. I don't mind going this 5, 6, 7 here, because if this is a chalky stack, I think a lot of people just come in and go 1 to 4, 1 to 5. But you can see here, Ruff is struggling. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Darren Ruff, if he hits in a 3-hole, I would fade him. He's got a 145 average, a 27% strikeout rate, which is absurd, and a 193 WOBA versus left-handed pitching. So we can say, 1, he's struggling in fantasy points. He's got a ceiling of 10 over the last 2 weeks, so we don't want him anyway. But also versus left-handed pitching, he's not doing well. So that's something you want to take a note of. So San Francisco, and when we're talking about these bets over here on the screenshot, I put the money line or the run line. You can really bet these however you want. I don't give you a specific bet. I will tell people what I bet. But if you don't mind risking a lot of money and winning less, you can lay the minus 210. And if you don't want to risk that much money, you can lay the 1.5 and get it more down to a normal bet of either even money to minus 130 in that range. Or you can mix and match these. Now I can tell you what I'm doing is I am going to run the New York Yankees, San Francisco in a parlay, and then I'm going to do San Fran, New York Dodgers for a card, and then I'm going to do San Fran, New York, St. Louis for a card. I typically like to risk less and win more, so I don't ever lay these minus 200s in a straight bet. That's a big no-no for me. So San Francisco stack or San Francisco bet is the first game that we like. And then moving on, the second one we're going to look at is let's go ahead and get the Dodgers out of the way because that's one that I want to talk about. So this is a later game. Yeah, my computer's going bonkers. There, it caught up. So over here, we got the Dodgers versus Detroit. Now, the Dodgers, look at this. They had a 6-game road trip. So they played 3 San Diego, 3 Arizona. They're finally returning home. You could tell they were getting tired. They lost 2 games to Arizona, who's absolutely horrible. So they need to come back and win this game in a big way. What I love about this is the Dodgers are at home. And if you look at their home-away splits right here, you see their WRC plus jumps 22 points from 107 to 129. Their WOBA jumps, their batting average jumps. Typically, most teams you see a little bump, but that's a pretty big bump there. Also, last 10 power rankings, if you don't like stats, we got number 1 versus number 23. So after losing 2 games to Arizona, coming back home, sleeping in their own beds, I think they come out and they get hot here. And you can see the runs on the game, or runs a game on the road is 4.6. It's up to 5.57 at home, so they are clearly a much better team at home. Detroit, not a lot to worry about. They're averaging 3 runs per game, 3.8 at home. Only 2 runs per game on the road. They're struggling. You can see here they've lost 5 games in a row, and they've only scored 1, 0, 4, 2, and 2 runs over the last 5 games, so they're struggling in themselves. And then their home road split, if you look at it at home, they're decent. They got a WRC plus of 103, but on the road, it drops to 65. Their WOBA drops 55 points, and their batting average drops 49 points from 244 to 196. So Detroit struggles on the road. They just lost 3 to Minnesota on the road. Sorry, my phone's going nuts. And so we flip down here. So I like the Dodgers. It's going to be pretty chalky. If you're stacking, they're projected at 4.8 runs. That's one of the highest on the slate, but they are at home, so I don't mind eating that chalk. As far as a bet, I do like the Dodgers money line and run line. As I just told you, I'm putting them in my parlay. I like the home advantage for the Dodgers. The road advantages for Detroit comes out. And when you come down here and you take a look at the games, the pitchers, we have Tyler Anderson versus Tyler Alexander, 2 lefties. Tyler Anderson's better. You know, he's got a 2.84 ERA, .87 whip, 182 average, and the number 1 bullpen behind him. That clearly favors the Dodgers. Also, we can see a lot of struggling hitters over here. We don't really have a lot of BVP for either team. And then Detroit sending Tyler Alexander over here. He's only got 10 innings, but an ERA of 7. His xFIP shows that he's better. But he's got a 1.7 whip and allowing a 326 average with a mediocre bullpen behind him. So we like the Dodgers here. If you're stacking, these graded red players are the ones I would really look at. So Freddie Freeman in the 2-hole is the first guy I would look at. He does have a high strikeout rate, but he's hitting $310 this year with a 375 WOBA versus left-handed pitching. That is fantastic. Mookie's starting to pick it up. He's also $5,000. He grades a little lower just because he has a high strikeout rate versus left-handed pitching. But I also like Trey Turner here. I would skip over Justin Turner. He's been struggling, and you can see he has a very low WOBA, and his ISO versus left-handed pitching is 0. So if he's in the lineup, skip over him. Avoid some of the chalky guys who come in here and load the 1-4, 1-5 hitters. Will Smith, a very low 14% strikeout rate and 544 WOBA versus left-handed pitching. We love that. So I would definitely do Freeman, Will Smith if he's in the lineup. Bellinger is someone that has a monster ceiling, and he's only $4,000. He's going to lower the cost of this stack for you. So even if you do this 1, 2, 3, go down here to Will Smith and Bellinger, or you could even do some type of a wrap. You could do 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Several different ways you could go on this, but again, we like the Dodgers as a bet and a DFS stack returning home. All right, let's go ahead. Now, this one almost makes me feel dirty, like I need to take a shower. So we've got the New York Yankees at the Kansas City Royals. For those of you that have followed me, you know I live in Kansas City. I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm a Royals fan. I like the hometown team, so I feel dirty whenever I have to go against my team. So Kansas City's been struggling here. I mean, they're averaging 3.2 runs per game, only 2.6 at home. They have picked it up a little bit, though. They won 2 of the 3 versus the White Sox with 5, 3, and 6 runs, so it's getting a little better. So I'm cheering for them inside, but betting-wise, I'm going to roll with the Yankees here. And the main reason is, look how many wins. They have 6 straight wins in a row, and I like them for a DFS stack as well because they've also got 10, 5, 12, 10, 5, and 4 runs over the last 6 games. So they're putting up a ton of offensive firepower. Their WRC plus isn't as good on the road. You can see here everything drops on the road. However, when I go down here and I look at the pitching matchup, Bibic, however you say his name, is struggling. He's got 3 starts this year, and those 3 starts he's combined for 7 total innings pitched. ERA of 14, which we know that can get inflated, but his xFIP is still 6.94, which is massive. And then he's got a whip of 3, and he's given up a 387 batting average. And then over here in my breakdown, what I put, so we talked about Cortez a little bit. So Bibic has 3 starts with 7 total innings. In those 7 innings, he gave up 11 runs and 9 walks. That's just absolutely insane. So I think they can really get a hold of him. For the most part, New York's been hot. If you're stacking, look here, you've got Rizzo, who's one of the top players in fantasy baseball. He's got a grade of 130. He's absolutely smashing. You have Aaron Judge, so I think it's very easy to say, okay, I'm going to take the 1-2 hitters. If you want to save some money, you can come down here to DJ LeMahieu, who's got a grade of 105 and a really good ceiling at 4,400. And I don't mind taking the 8-hitter, this Isaiah Kinner, whatever his name is. He's got a pretty good solid fantasy points over the last week. He's only $3,500, so you could even do a reverse wrap and do 7, 8, 9, 1, 2. I see a lot of DFS players do that and save some money. Gallo has a massive 58% K rate. I would avoid him. Stanton is usually pretty popular, and he's been struggling, so I'd probably avoid him. Donaldson, he has a pretty high K rate, low grade, so I think this 3, 4, 5, I would avoid doing 1 through 5 or just 1 through 4 for the Yankees lineup. Get a little tricky because this could be really chalky, and do something like a 7, 8, 9, 1, 2 or 1, 2, 6, 7, 1, 2, 7, 8, something like that. Mix it up, get a little bit of a different lineup, save some money, and build elsewhere. But the reason I love this so much, one, Yankees have been red hot. Royals are struggling. Bibic has been struggling that we can see. Let me go ahead and just show you his stats here. So I was pulling this up. Let me make sure this is on your screen that you can see it. I guess, yeah, if I pull it up here. Okay, so you can see these 3 starts were against Cleveland, Detroit, Seattle. He lasted 0.2, 4.1 in 2 innings, and he gave up 5, 1, and 5 earned runs. And this one, he only gave up 1 earned run, but he walked 6 freaking batters. What the heck is going on? So his walks and everything is off the charts, so I like him as a pitcher, but until he gets going, I'm going to go ahead and shy and stay away from him. On the other side, Nelson Cortez. Let's look at this guy while I got it up. Nestor Cortez, sorry. He is my favorite pitcher on the slate, and I was looking at him last night while I was sitting it out on my deck trying to find some player props. He's got 3 starts, so 15.2 innings that you can see over here, a 1.15 ERA, his K9 rate is 14.4, which is insane, allowing a 132 batting average, so he should dominate the struggling Royals. And look at this, he's got 4, 5, and 6 innings pitched with 5, 12, and 8 Ks. In his last 2 starts, he's pitched 11.1 innings and he has 20 strikeouts. That is absurd. Yes, Baltimore sucks and they strike out a lot, but he had 5 Ks in 4 innings against Toronto, who's really good. And Cleveland's been pretty decent. He had 8 strikeouts in 6 innings, so that's someone we're also going to take a look at a player prop for as well. But we do like the Yankees for a stack. I like using Nestor Cortez, paying up for the chalk pitcher. What is he on? 10K FanDuel, 10K DK. Don't mind using him at all. So Yankees are going to be the second team that we go with. And let's go ahead and hit this with one more. And the last game we're going to do is the St. Louis Cardinals versus, was that Arizona? Okay, so our 4th stack and 4th bet game is going to be the St. Louis Cardinals at the lowest spread of -190. Last 10 power rankings are pretty close. You can see 16 versus 13, so it's kind of in that range. What I like about St. Louis is the home road splits. Now, given we only have 8 to 10 games, but their WRC plus jumps from 87 on the road to 133.5 at home. WOBA jumps 55 points. Batting average goes from 227 up to 275 at home, so that's really good. You can see they've won their last 2 games, and they've put up 18 runs in the last 2 games, so that's why I love them for a stack. They just beat Arizona 8-3 last night, actually, and then they beat the Mets 10-5 before that. and they've been at home for a few days, so they're rested, they're sleeping in their own beds. That's huge for MLB players. And also, take this with a grain of salt, but you can see versus right-handed versus left-handed pitching. Today, they get a left-handed pitcher. They've only got 4 games. They went 2-2, but they have a WRC plus of 150. So that's huge. Now, it does come with a 25% strikeout rate, so take that with a grain of salt, but it does do well. Also, I like that they're 6-2 versus teams under 500, and then Arizona is 6-10 versus teams over 500. Also, you can see their runs per game here. St. Louis, 3.5 on the road, but a massive 5.6 at home. And then Arizona just sucks. 3.2 runs per game over the last 2 weeks, which is pretty much the season. And then 2.92, 3.13 home road, struggling. 28th team batting average of 193. Not doing really well. They did manage to pick up a couple close wins versus the Dodgers, and then they got blown up by St. Louis. So again, I like run line here, like money line, mix match, whatever you want to do. Let's go down and take a look at the pitching matchup. So just take a look at this. So 2 things that should jump out at you. There's no BVP here, but this should be a glaring hole. Let me slide over here. So over here, typically when you're looking at BVP, I always say you want 50 to 75 team at-bats, and you want them spread out, and then you can start to take it with a grain of salt. If you get over 100, 150 at-bats, that's going to indicate a little bit more. Here, this is a good example. So the St. Louis projected starting lineup against Madison Bumgarner has a projected 208 at-bats, or they've had 208 at-bats, and they're batting 303. So batting over 300 with 200 at-bats is really good, and that should jump out and slap you in the face. And the strikeout rate is only 14% through 208 at-bats. So they've seen Mad Bum several times. He's having a pretty decent year, although everything indicates that he's been lucky on his underlying stats. And I also love that they have the dead last bullpen. So when Mad Bum comes out of the game, so if he throws a solid 5 or 6 innings, we get the dead last bullpen. The bullpen alone is giving up a 277 batting average. My God. Now, when you're looking at stacking this, Tommy Edman up top, he's 4 for 6 with no strikeouts off Mad Bum. He is killing left-handed pitching. He has a micro 13% strikeout rate and grades at 117. His fantasy points have been solid, so I love using him. Goldschmidt, you've got to use him. He has 71 at-bats, batting 338 off Mad Bum and 3 bombs. That's solid. O'Neill, I don't mind if you need to save some money. He's 4,700. His ceiling's not real high, so I don't mind skipping over him if you want to go a 1-2 and then flip down here to like a 4-6-7 or 4-7-8, something along those lines. When you get down here at the bottom, you get a couple guys, Paul DeJong and Harrison Bader, with monster strikeout rates and lower batting averages. So you want to kind of stack up into the top, but you want to try to skip one of those guys who may struggle because you don't want to be on the chalk itself. Now, if you come down here to Dylan Carlson, he hasn't done really good versus left-handed pitching, but he's only $3,900, so you can throw him in there. Pujols and Molina are only $35,000 and $3,000. Now, they've been struggling, but Pujols has killed left-handed pitching. He's got a 649 WOBA, a lower 21% strikeout rate, but he's got a massive ISO of 538 versus left-handed pitching, so I love plugging him in there. Only $3,500. He's 3 for 10, but he has no strikeouts, so I love seeing that. So in 10 at-bats, he's never struck out against Mad Bum. So he's batting 300 off of him and has a home run. So you could get sneaky here and do like a 1-2. Arenado, you got to put in. The guy's a stud. So I would do like a 1-2-3-6, and then put in like a 1-2-3-6-7 or 1-2-3-6-8. One of these guys down here. I like the 1-2-3-6-7. That looks pretty good. That would give you Edman, Goldschmidt. Actually, I like Arenado too. 1-2-3-4. Skip over Carlson and do Pujols. So 1-2-3-4-6. Several different ways you could go. Arenado, having a great year. He's batting 382, micro low strikeout rate, kills left-handed pitching, 508 WOBA, 600 ISO. That is just absolutely insane. Has the highest ceiling of any of the projected hitters over the last 2 weeks. And off Mad Bum, he's 16 of 63, has 3 home runs, batting 254. So pretty solid, but he is expensive. So I love St. Louis, and I love stacking St. Louis as well for a bet. Wainwright has a mixed bag. He's got a 3.86 ERA, but his underlying stats indicate it should be much lower, but he does have a high whip and a high batting average allowed. Now, given this is only 6 and 15 innings, so take it with a grain of salt, but you can see the majority of that came on the road. At home, he's got 6 innings with a .83 whip and 238 average and a mediocre bullpen behind him. So I like going with Waino right here. Arizona isn't exactly a powerhouse offense, so again, just to recap, the 3 stacks I like and the 3 bets I like are Giants, Dodgers, Yankees, Cardinals. And then the bets I'm going to do, I'm taking Yankees, Giants for a card, then Yankees, Giants, Dodgers, Yankees, Giants, Cardinals. That's what I've bet so far today. And let me give you one more dog of the day bet and then one more punt stack. So the dog of the day that I'm going to look at, and I forgot to write this up in the screenshot, so this will be a bonus for the video, is going to be the Los Angeles Angels. And let me see what the money looks like on them over here. So Angels right here. All right, so they're plus 110, not exactly a huge dog of the day, but either way, it's a dog. So what I like about this is look at the Chicago White Sox here. Out of the last 10 games, they're 1-9. They're struggling mightily. Now, they are back at home, but you can see their stats here don't fly up the charts at home. They're eh. Last 10 power rankings, we have number 6 versus number 30, and the number 6 team is the underdog. You're getting plus 110 here. And then what I like about this is LA's been good on the road. They're scoring 6.4 runs per game on the road compared to only 4.1 at home. So even if you don't like the split, they're still number 1 in runs per game over the last 2 weeks at 5.4. And they've got a WRC plus on the road of 149.5. They've got a higher WOBA, higher batting average, higher OBP ISO number. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And you can see here, they've won 5 straight games. And look at this, 4-1, 9-5, 4-1, 3-0, 7-6. Cleveland's pretty decent. Baltimore sucks, so who really cares about that? White Sox are upside down. They're 7-11. And then you've got LA, streak of 5. Versus teams less than 500, they're 8-3. So I'll take a shot here at dog money at, plus 110, or hopefully I can get better than that. As far as the pitching matchup, both pitchers to me are about the same. They're good. You got Lucas Giolito and Noah Syndergaard. There's not a huge advantage in my eyes one way or another. We've got a 1.13 ERA versus a 2.12. And then over here, LA's got the better bullpen at 17th versus 27th for the White Sox. So I even like the bullpen side over here. Syndergaard, .82 whip, allowing a 167 average. And then Giolito, a 125 whip, allowing a 179 average. To me, these pitchers are equal. I don't think there's a huge difference either way. Yeah, you could give a little edge to Lucas Giolito, but he's got a terrible bullpen behind him. We've got a better offense over here in LA. I'm taking that dog money at plus 110, and we're going to roll with that. And then one of the punt stacks, and this one almost makes me feel dirty, is Cincinnati. So Cincinnati's projected at 5.1 runs by Vegas, so it's going to be a little chalky, but it's in Colorado. Everybody loves to go Colorado. And typically, you're spending about $5,000 per hitter to get the Rockies, who's, they've been struggling. But over here, Cincinnati sucks. They've been struggling, but what jumps out at me here, they're in Colorado. And then look at the last 3 games. They've scored 5, 5, and 6 runs. Well, 5, 5, 6, 4. So they've scored some runs. They're starting to put some offensive firepower up. I don't think they're going to win the game, but I want to see if this is a trend. They had several games in here where they scored 0 to 2 runs. Then they had a 4-ball, and then 6, 5, 5. Their last 3 games, I think, are their highest 3 production games on the year against San Diego. And look at the cost of these hitters. This is stupid. 2,200, 2,600, 2,700, 2,800, 2,300. I mean, these guys are dirt cheap. You can get an average of $2,640 per hitter. You can put anybody you want. You could stack every stud, the top 2 most expensive pitchers, and do a Cincinnati stack. And if you get 5 runs out of it, that is fantastic. So that would be my dog stack. And then look, I'm not worried about Sensatella, whatever his name is. He's got an ERA of 4.7, 203 whip. He's given up a 448 batting average so far this year, and they got the 29th bullpen behind him. look at these bullpens. Both of these bullpens are horrible. But if I can stack Colorado for $5,000 average per hitter, or I can go over here to Cincy and spend $26.40, I'm definitely going to do that all day. So that's what I got, guys. I hope you like it. I try to show you in the sheet what I'm looking at, what I see, what jumps out. So when you're looking at it, you can use it, you can find the games. Good luck. Go win some money.